Hello everyone, welcome to yet another session of the daily news analysis by SRIRAM'S IAS, where we take up the important articles featuring in the Hindu newspaper and break them down for our understanding from the examination point of view. Let's start the discussion today by taking the important articles. The important articles which appear in the newspaper are on our screens, and let's take up the first article for discussion. The first article which appears in the newspaper talks about the strains on India-Russia defense cooperation. Now, this article becomes important from the point of view of India and Russia relations, which we study from the GS2 perspective. Now, with the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war, we can see that there are a lot of problems which has arisen for Russia as well as those countries which are dependent on Russia with respect to its trade. And what kind of trade is India dependent on Russia? That is, the heavy chunk of it is the import of arms and ammunitions and the weapons. So, the defense cooperation between India and Russia is a very crucial relationship which has come under a lot of strain because of the ongoing Russia-Ukraine crisis. How has it come under a lot of strains? Because Russia itself is deploying its army and using a lot of its inventory and resources in the war itself, and with that happening, will it be able to supply the arms and ammunitions that India would require timely? So that becomes an issue. Secondly, we know that a lot of European nations along with USA are imposing sanctions on Russia. Russia has been the banks of Russia have been removed from the SWIFT system, which is the banking messaging system which facilitates banking facilities in the inter-countries level. So that Russia has been removed from that. So because of all this, doing trade with Russia has become difficult, and the direct impact of this difficulty will be on the defense sector of India, wherein whatever arms and ammunitions for and other defense equipment India is relying on Russia, it will take a hit. So that is why we'll take a look at what exactly are the strains between India and Russia with respect to their defense cooperation and how deep is their defense cooperation. So first of all, various spares and ammunition supply can be affected. So the Indian government and the defense personnel have replied that there is not much need to be afraid from the shocks that can arise from the Russia-Ukraine war, but yes, various spare parts and ammunitions which are required for already running defense equipment, that the supply for that can be affected. So that is the case. With respect to the total trade between Russia and India, the defense trade between Russia and India has crossed 15 billion since 2018. That's a sizable chunk of our military imports, and we import in high amounts from the country of Russia, and in the backdrop of some big deals, including the 5.43 billion S-43 long-range air defense system. So this is the premier air defense system which we have been importing from Russia, and the deal is worth $5.43 billion. What is this system? This is basically a long-range air defense system which has the capacity to fire up missiles to a long range. This S-400 system has already been asked in the prelims examination, and why has it been asked and why is it important? Because when India was set to buy the S-400 air defense system from Russia, it was wary of inculcating sanctions from USA under the CATSA law, wherein USA does not permit the other countries who it wants to do trade with, who he does not think that they should not be doing trade with other countries. For example, if USA does not want India to buy certain defense equipment from Russia, it can impose sanctions on India. So in this case, but the India was able to grant a waiver on this sanctions, and the deal was through, where India was able to buy the S-400 system and also avoid the sanctions that USA was set to impose on India. So that was the S-400 deal, which is, the deal has been done, but the implementation and the delivery of these air defense systems are yet to be done. And other major contracts are also currently under implementation. Which are those contracts apart from the S-400 air defense system? So construction of 4 additional stealth frigates in Russia and India. This 4 additional stealth frigates are also to be constructed in India and Russia, which is to be supplied to India. So that is one deal which is remaining. This is all the list of those major defense deals between India and Russia which are ongoing and are yet to be implemented and can be affected by the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine. Second is the licensed production of the Mango armor piercing fin stabilized discarding sabot or APF SDS system. This is again that kind of a system for armor piercing and fin stabilized discarding sabot. This is a type of equipment that is required for the armed forces. So license production of this has also yet to be implemented. Second is rounds for the T-90 tanks and also additional T-90 tanks. These T-90 tanks are the premier tanks which Russia is using in the war against Ukraine, and these tanks are also to be supplied to India. And apart from these tanks, AK-203 assault rifles are to be also supplied to India, and a dedicated manufacturing unit for there is to be set in Uttar Pradesh, which is yet to get functionalized and start production. So these are all the impending deals that are there between Russia and India, which can face problems from the because of the Russia-Ukraine war. And in order to facilitate these deals, Russia has given promise to India that it will make timely deliveries of these deals as well as the transactions that are to happen. Then other important factor which comes into the picture with respect to these deals is not just the availability of spares and ammunition, which we saw that might get affected because Russia itself is using a lot of its resources in the war. Second system would be as to how can this payment be made. If there are a lot of sanctions on Russia and Russia cannot use dollars, neither can India supply dollars to Russia, what system of trade can be made for these two countries to carry out their trade without the use of dollars? So this mechanism is known as the Rupee-Ruble trade arrangement. Right? This is the mechanism that India and Russia are using, wherein rupee is the currency of India, and ruble is the currency of Russia. How does this system take place? This system basically is a payment mechanism which can allow Indian exporters to be paid in Indian rupees for their exports to Russia instead of standard international currencies such as dollars. So what happens is that basically two countries make an arrangement. This trade arrangement between two countries is not limited just to Russia. India has done this with a lot of other countries. So basically what happens is that both countries agree to maintain an account in the other country's currency in the other country's bank, and whenever they have to make payment, they make payment in that country's currency as well. So under this arrangement, a Russian bank will need to open an account in an Indian bank. So a Russian bank opens an account in Indian bank and it maintains currency in the form of rupee in that account, and an Indian bank simultaneously will also open its account in Russia, and this Indian bank will maintain a same amount of money in the ruble currency form. Both sides mutually agree to hold a currency worth a specified amount in the local currencies in their respective accounts. I hope this is clear. The Russian bank in India, which would be set up, it will open an account and hold amount in rupees denomination. An Indian bank in Russia will hold same amount in the ruble denomination. And if the specified amount is, let's say, $100 million, then the Russian bank's account will have, in India will have rupees, and similarly Indian banks will have rubles worth that amount. I hope this is clear. And once the payment mechanism is in place, the Indian exporter can be paid in rupee from the Russian banks. So when both countries have each other's currency, whenever they do trade with each other, they can pay the exporter in the respective country's denomination or currency itself. So this is the benefit of the Rupee-Ruble arrangement which India and Russia have set to do. This is not the first time where they've done it. In 2018 as well, during the S-400 trade deal, this kind of Rupee-Ruble arrangement was done to evade the CATSA law and US sanctions. So this is the discussion between India and Russia relations with respect to their defense cooperation and what is happening, and the important concept of Rupee Ruble arrangement. With this, let's move on to our next article for the day. The next article which appears in the newspaper reads the functioning of the National Investigation Agency. Now, why has this law enforcement agency come into the picture? In the recent backdrop of the Udaipur beheading of a tailor, which we most of us have already must have seen, in that backdrop, the case has now been handed over to the National Investigation Agency by the center. So in that case, it becomes important for us to understand this institution and law enforcement agency, about its genesis, its role that it plays, the kind of offenses that it deals with, and its jurisdiction and powers. So that becomes important for us from the perspective of GS2, wherein we study institutions in polity. So let's look at important facts about the National Investigation Agency. First of all, the National Investigation Agency was constituted under the National Investigation Agency Act of 2008. What can be the reason? What was the reason behind forming such a agency as recent as 2008? This is the, if we can remember, this was under the backdrop of the 26/11 attacks. When the 26/11 attacks happened in Mumbai, it was realized that there was a dire need for a specialized agency which can take care of intelligence as well as operation activities in terms of combating terrorism, as well as other allied activities with respect to these acts. And for that specialized operations, the National Investigation Agency was formed. And what were the kind of mandates that was given? So it became a central agency. Generally, we should remember that the law and order forms a part of the state subject, but this agency was formed at a central level, wherein Parliament formulated an act and gave this agency a central status to investigate and prosecute offences relating to and affecting the sovereignty, security and integrity of India, security of state and friendly relations with foreign states. So because of these kind of offences, such as the terrorism offences and other allied offences, they hold national character and they affect the country as a whole. That is why this agency was given a central character and the power to prosecute and investigate the offences which happen across the states. Then also against the atomic and nuclear facilities. These facilities become an important infrastructure for the country. That is why any type of offense or any mishandling happening in these facilities become an important area for the NIA to step in. And third is the smuggling in high quality counterfeit Indian currency. So dealing and investigating in counterfeit currency as well forms a part of the NIA's mandate. Why? Because counterfeit Indian currency is always linked to some illegal activity such as terror financing or other such activities. So even like I said, for terrorism, all other allied activities which are there, the NIA would be mandated to investigate on it. And it also implements the international treaties, agreements, conventions and resolutions of the United Nations, its agencies and other international organizations. And its objective is also to combat terror in India, right? That is the primary objective, and it acts as the central counter-terrorism law enforcement agency. So this is something we should be remembering. That is why in this Udaipur case, where there have been links with the cross-border links of these perpetrators, that is why the NIA has stepped in to investigate the larger angle of the case. And the headquarters of NIA lie in New Delhi, with branches in other cities such as Hyderabad, Guwahati, Kochi, Lucknow, Mumbai, Kolkata, Raipur and Jammu. These are the branches of National Investigation Agency. Then, with respect to the scheduled offences. Now, the NIA Act of 2008 initially enlisted a schedule of offences, which means that the list of offences which are mentioned in the Act, only those offences or under those acts only the NIA can prosecute. So what are those laws? One is the Explosive Substances Act, right? All of these acts, if we analyze, would be pertaining to using of weapons against the state, countering terrorism and allied activities. So Explosive Substances Act, Atomic Energy Act, the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act or the UAPA, then Anti-Hijacking Act, Suppression of Unlawful Acts Against Safety of Civil Aviation, and the SARC Convention of Suppression of Terrorism Act. Then next is the Suppression of Unlawful Acts Against Safety of Maritime Navigation in Fixed Platforms on Continental Shelf. Right? This act would deal with the offences done in the coastal waters and beyond of the Indian territory. So even here, where the security and safety of the country as a whole is involved, that is why NIA gets to investigate on these offences. And then weapons of mass destruction and their delivery systems, wherein a lot of terrorist organizations use such weapons of mass destruction. So hence, these offences are also to be investigated and prosecuted by the NIA. And the other relevant offences under the IPC, such as the Criminal Conspiracy and others, and the Arms Act and the Information Technology Act, wherein the cyber crimes affecting the security of the country also come into the picture. So this was the initial list of offences in the schedule of the NIA Act of 2008. And in September 2020, the Centre empowered the NIA to also probe offences under the NDPS or Narcotics, Drug and Psychotropic Substances Act that are connected to terror cases. A lot of times terror cases are connected to drug smuggling, and the money earned through drug smuggling is often used in the terror financing of such activities. So that is why NIA was also given an extended power to deal with NDPS offences as well. So these are the list of offences the NIA deals with. Through this we can see that the NIA has been tasked with the specific mandate of dealing with the terrorism in the country and all other allied activities that can be carried out with respect to these acts. The NIA is empowered to deal with these activities. Now, with respect to the jurisdiction of the NIA. Now, in this case, what is the jurisdiction as to what all offences and where all can the National Investigation Agency treat these offences? So, first of all, any offence that happens inside the territory of India, be that in any state, the NIA is empowered to investigate and prosecute. Then if any offence happens outside India, but the citizen, it is against an Indian citizen, then also NIA is empowered to investigate and prosecute. Then thirdly, if an offence happens on a ship in the oceans, but the ship is registered in India, then also the NIA will have the jurisdiction to try the offence under such circumstance. And the officers of the NIA have the same powers as the other police officers in relation to the investigation of such offences across India. So across India is the important power that has been given to NIA. And the officers of the NIA will have the power to investigate scheduled offences, which we just saw, committed outside India, subject to international treaties and domestic laws of other countries. So outside India, wherever an Indian is involved and an offence has happened against an Indian or committed by an Indian, the jurisdiction of NIA gets active over there. And the central government may direct the NIA to investigate such cases as if the offence has been committed in India. The power to delegate such cases lying with the central government. And the court which decides the case is the special court in New Delhi will have jurisdiction over these cases. Now in this particular case, in the Udaipur killing case, the centre has suo motu taken cognizance of the case and sent NIA to take over the charge of the case. So in this case, can the centre do so? It can definitely do so. It can suo motu direct the National Investigation Agency. Suo motu means by itself. So the states can either request the centre with respect to any case for the NIA to take over, or the centre, if it feels that this case is of national importance affecting the security of India, it can even by itself direct the NIA to take over any case with respect to the state. Here is where a certain issue with also the functioning of NIA is also flagged out, whereas as I earlier mentioned, the law and order as a subject is a part of a state list, and by giving powers of prosecuting and investigating offences happening in state as well, some kind of powers from state are being usurped, is the issue that a lot of people flag out with the functioning of NIA. That is the whole discussion with respect to the National Investigation Agency that we saw, and with all of its important aspects. With this, let's move on to our next article for the day. The next article which appears in the newspaper, which is an interesting article, is the Targeting GI Tag Mayurbhanj's Superfood and Chutney to Find More Tables, right? So in a bizarre food combination as we might think, but Mayurbhanj, which is a district in Odisha, the tribals over there have a delicacy known as ant chutney, which is also known as the kai chutney. This is made from ants, and the department of this district is popularizing this ant chutney so that this ant chutney gets a geographical indicator tag, and this delicacy becomes famous and travels to other places as well. But what is the speciality of this dish? So the speciality of this dish is, first of all, that it is known as kai chutney, K-A-I, and it is made from the red ants that we often see around us. And it is the delicacy specially from the Mayurbhanj district of Odisha. And why is it special? The delicacy prepared with, and these ants are mixed and grinded with a lot of other spices such as salts and other garlic and ginger paste, and all of this, the chutney that is prepared is said to be rich in proteins, calcium, zinc, vitamin B12, iron, magnesium, potassium, sodium, copper, fiber, and 18 amino acids, and is known to boost our immune systems. So this is the multifaceted benefits of this ant chutney that is said to have, and the tribals are known to indulge in this since a lot of years. So this can be said to be the ancient wisdom that is traveling from the tribals, which should be made popular in the urban landscape and with the other people living in other urban centers as well. So that is the attempt made by the government, wherein this dish should get a geographical indicator tag. What does a geographical indicator tag means? This is a tag which is given to any product or any food product which is manufactured or prepared, which gives it a exclusive right of that dish or that product being prepared only in that area. So for example, if there is a geographical indicator tag given to, let's say, any hat being prepared in a particular region. Now, if that hat gets a GI tag, then that hat can only be prepared in that region, and that region would be recognized as the region of superior quality of availability of those hats. So that is a recognition that the traders get of that area. So similarly, if this delicacy gets a GI tag, the region would be known for the preparation of this delicacy, and they would get legitimacy to prepare this delicacy only by themselves. So that is the benefit of GI tag. So it becomes important from us from the studying from the IPR laws, which we study in GS3, right? And a lot of tribal related questions, the tribal delicacies, languages, all of these questions are recurrently seen in the previous year's UPSC prelims examination. That is why having a special eye with respect to the tribals' indulgences also become important for us from the examination point of view. With this, let's move on to our next article for the day. The next article talks about celebrating the unknown and the unsung. This article is written by G. Kishan Reddy, who is the Union Minister of Culture and Tourism and Development. So when such kind of articles appear, when the union minister or the state dignitaries themselves have written an article, it becomes important for us to focus on the substance of what they are talking about. So in this case, the article written by the minister talks about the revolutionary freedom fighter known as Alluri Sitaram Raju. And Alluri Sitaram Raju is being celebrated as the unknown and the unsung warrior. And he was among the many freedom fighters in the country, and he led a rebellion. So let us understand some facts about Alluri Sitaram Raju. Who was Alluri Sitaram Raju? If we remember the recent movie that came in, directed by S.S. Rajamouli, which was known as RRR, the character played by Chiranjeevi's son, I'm not remembering his name, that character is based on the freedom fighter Alluri Sitaram Raju. That character is based on this real life revolutionary. And Alluri Sitaram Raju was an Indian revolutionary who waged a armed campaign against British colonial rule in India. So that is why he was celebrated as a revolutionary, and he became a monk at the age of 18. Born in present day Andhra Pradesh, he became involved in anti-British activities in response to the 1882 Madras Forest Acts. Now this is a template which we can trace in a lot of tribal uprisings or tribal revolts, wherein the Britishers encroached upon the tribals' rights to carry out agriculture in the way they want, restrict them from collecting the forest produce, taking away their forest lands. So in this way they exploited the tribals a lot, and that is why this act of tribals revolting against the British was seen in a lot of places in that time. So one such rebellion was led by the Alluri Sitaram Raju and against the Madras Forest Act of the British, which effectively restricted the free movement of Adivasis or the tribal communities in their forest habitats and prevented them from practicing a traditional form of agriculture known as Podu, which is a shifting cultivation. So feeling exploited and denied of all their ancient practices, the rising discontent towards the British led to the Rampa Rebellion, or which is also called Manyam Rebellion of 1922, which was led by Alluri Sitaram Raju, and he played a major part as a leader, and he was nicknamed Manyam Virudu, or hero of the jungle, by local villagers for his heroic exploits. It is said that he entered a British police station at that point of time and looted a lot of ammunition and to carry out the revolt. And in 1924, 2 years in the revolt, Raju was taken into the police custody, tied to a tree and shot by a public execution, effectively ending the armed rebellion. So his death meant that the rebellion was ended, but this was the story of the unsung hero and the Rampa Rebellion. So this becomes important for us from the modern history point of view, wherein we study the important aspects and revolts occurring in the pre-independence period. So this was the discussion for today with respect to the important articles. We'll meet again tomorrow with the important articles for the day. Thank you.